London is also home to gold medal winning sprinters like Dina Asher-Smith and Adam Jamili. And that swag and steel is obvious in a long line of brilliant boxers from the area such as David Hay, Chris Eubanks Sr. and Dylan White. It's perhaps no coincidence either that a World Boxing Council initiative has recently been established in the heart of South London at the Fitzroy Lodge Gym in search of the next South London world champion. So Joe Bayer caught up with one of the area's brightest prospects, the British light heavyweight champion from Croydon, Joshua Buatsi.
What experiences do you think have shaped you to become the person you are today and be in the field that you are in now?
Okay, so first of all, regarding my young years, it's important to mention that I was quite happy. I was quite a happy child. I don't have any horrible or horrid tales to tell about being a young person. I was always. I had a happy childhood and a happy schooling at primary. And how did my shape who I am now? I guess it's kind of a bit of a standard answer, but I reckon because of my mother. So I lived with my mum. My dad was in my life, but he didn't live with me. But my mum was. I always say my mum is the person. I am the person I am because of my mum. But the person I want to be is my father. That's the person I aspired to be. Do you know what I mean? Yeah. So my mum was very, very strict with me. Discipline was a very big thing in my household. And that, I suppose, instilled values and standards kind of going forward and growing up to the person I am now. In regards to the field that I'm in now, I was quite lucky because unlike a lot of 10, 11, 12-year-olds, I knew what job I wanted to do when I was older. I think most 10 to 12-year-olds kind of an idea what they want to do, but they don't know what they want to do. I knew from I left primary, I wanted to be a writer because it was the only thing that I was good at and enjoyed. When I do a lot of talks with young people in prisons and colleges and unis, and people are always like, oh, how do we work out what we want to do? My only kind of formula is, okay, work out the thing that you're really good at and the thing that you love. And that sounds really easy, but there's not many things you'll realise that you love and are good at. There'll be things that you love, but you're not really good at. There'll be things that you're really good at, don't really like doing that. But writing was the only thing that I was good at and loved. So I knew from very early I wanted to go into writing, and then latterly I knew that media was the area I wanted to do it in. So I suppose my early years at school kind of formed the person that I was, which was quite a sociable person, happy person, intelligent person, and quite a normal upbringing. And I suppose that kind of helped me funnel into starting to think about my career and what job I wanted to do. So writing was what I realised. No, this is what I want to do, and I want to make a success of it. And that really ramped up when I was in secondary school.
Okay. In terms of, obviously, I know that you've played wheelchair basketball. Mm-hmm. You also have done sports journalism, broadcasting. When did you catch the sports bug?
Oh wow, that was well before. That was, I think the sports bug for 90% of people who are into sports, they catch it from the first time they see a track, or first time they see a football, or first time they see a basketball. It was very, very early for me. I think first of all, I enjoyed the activity of a sport. So I enjoyed running. I enjoyed seeing people kick a ball, throw a ball, you have a racket. I enjoyed that. But you combine that with a personal trait of mine, which is very competitive. I'm very competitive. My competitive nature combined with the enjoyment for sport just meant that sport was for me, man. Mm-hmm. I liked winning. I liked the idea. You know what? More than I liked winning, I hated losing. Okay. I hated losing. I've kind of, as time's gone on and you grow up, you learn how to deal with losing, but I'm a secretly bad loser same way. I just don't.
That's not necessarily a bad thing.
I don't think it is. I think we're in this society now whereby everyone's a winner and everyone gets a No. There are some things in life, most things in life, where you have to lose and someone is better, and that has to be rewarded, and that's why you work hard. And I guess kind of my love for sport has kind of shaped, I suppose, the kind of centerpiece of who I am as a person, which is the harder you work, the better you will do. And that's the essence of sport. Sport is about the better you do and the more you practice, the better chance you give yourself of being number one.
Mm-hmm.
You can work hard and still not come number one, but the harder you work and the more gifted and talented you are, you will significantly increase your chance of winning first prize. And I guess that's kind of how my work mindset has always kind of come about. The harder I work, the better I have of being winning. I did a talk the other day actually, and I made the point that winning for me equates to happiness. So the question was, what makes you happy and what grounds happiness for you? And it didn't go down very, very well in the crowd, but I didn't care. I said that winning, if I feel like I'm winning, not just in sport, in life,
yeah.
I feel good. I feel good when I've put out a good show and I'm pleased with it. I feel good when I've done a live on Channel 4 News and it's gone well and I've informed people of a story that's important. That for me is a win. That equates to happiness. Now, that doesn't mean that if I don't win, I'll go into depression. It just means that I like the feeling of winning. It makes me feel good.
And I think I'm glad you said that, because a lot of people don't like to admit that, because I think this goes back to the society where everybody's a winner.
Yeah.
And there is a fact, it's a fact of a matter, if you're winning, you do feel 10 times better. And I compare it to, like, for example, sports fans. You might not have been the person on that pitch, but if your team wins, you feel better. So if you win as an individual across in whatever platform or whatever you're doing in life, you're going to feel better as a person. So I totally agree with that. I wanted to ask, what exactly are your favourite sports though? What are your sports that you love most?
My two favourite sports would probably be tennis and football.
Okay.
Those are the two sports that I love the most. But I also enjoy track and field.
Okay.
I also enjoy many of the Paralympic and disability sports. So wheelchair basketball, I played for nearly 20 years. I'm a big fan of wheelchair tennis. I'm a big fan of goalball. Most sports are like, at the Olympics, this is going to sound really weird. At the Olympics, apart from the 100-meter final, the only sport that I really check for is gymnastics.
Okay.
I love gymnastics. I think gymnastics is a phenomenal sport in the sense that the athleticism and the skill and the technique required to do what they do.
High level.
Oh man, if you think, and I watch it thinking, I wish I could do that.
Yeah.
I do have a problem with sports that are subjective based.
Okay.
So like gymnastics, like
I understand. Yeah.
do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Where it's somebody's opinion,
as
yeah,
opposed to
a fact.
To the facts.
Who says that double twist and twirl is better than that front roll and backflip? And do you know what I mean?
9.58 seconds is 9.85 seconds, whereas the gymnastics it goes down to your opinion, maybe your cultural background, your training, your philosophy.
Exactly.
Yeah, so.
And I'd find it difficult to compete in a sport where, 5, 10, 20 years of practicing and training and competing comes down to somebody's I would struggle with that, I must admit. And I think there's a whole question about whether that's a sport then, because is it a sport if it's not factual?
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? It's not factual, it's an opinion.
Yeah.
Based off of a criteria, technique and structure and all that. I get that, but it's still anyway, but that's a separate thing. But gymnastics is a sport that I love as well.
Okay. So 20 years of playing wheelchair basketball.
Yes.
How did you get involved in wheelchair basketball, and what have you achieved out of that? Because I know you did fairly well.
I did. So how did I get into it? So I have a prosthetic leg. I have one leg. When I was born, my foot was born deformed.
Okay.
So when I was 18 years old, they amputated my foot from the ankle down.
Okay.
So I don't have, on my right leg, I don't have a foot.
Okay.
Didn't have to happen, but they thought for my long-term being, it was better that I had prosthetics rather than kept my leg, but then used calipers or crutches, and I was I'd have been up and down.
Improved your mobility.
Exactly, it was just a better long-term decision to make that my parents made for me. And so, I had one leg, and I was playing football from the age of 7 or 8 till about 11 for a team called Melwood. Anyway, after season 4, the coach says to my mum, we can't register him for next season. Why not? Insurance reasons.
Oh wow.
So, it's dangerous. If he goes in for a tackle with his prosthetic, he could do someone some serious harm, which is completely true. It's completely true. It's not fair. So I was like, oh, okay. So I was gutted. Really got upset about that. I said to my mum, I want to still play a sport. Can you see if you can find me a different sport to compete in? Because I want to play sport. Comes back to me and says, oh, I found this this club in Ilford. Was it Ilford? Was it Hackney? First one was Ilford, actually.
Long journey from south.
Oh man, it was a mission. And these times I wasn't living around here. I was living in Dulwich, where my mum still lives now. So Dulwich to Ilford, wow, mission. So I was a bit like, wheelchair basketball, really? Cool. Went along, had a look, had a go, hated it. Just thought this is rubbish. This is stupid. This is hard as well. Went back the following week, hated it a little bit less. Week after, a little bit less. And then what I suppose kind of grew my love and passion for the sport was that I got very good very quickly. And that always helps in anything. If you're good at something, that'll always keep a level of interest in it. If you don't like it and you're crap at it, then you're just like, oh, what's the point?
You're done.
But if you don't like it, but you're actually really good at it, you're like, oh, okay, I'm kind of good at this, so I'll do it. And then kind of just grew from there. I had a great coach, Leroy Dobson, who recently passed away. He's like a really good guy to me, like a second dad to me. And he kind of taught me the skills of wheelchair basketball, and I played for a club. I joined his club in, they were from Hackney, but they played in Ilford, their home games. Did that for a few years, and then progressed very quickly to the GB Great Britain junior team. This was within like 2 years, so I kind of progressed very, very quickly, and kind of accelerated from there. Played abroad for 4 years in Italy professionally for a while, and yeah, kind of retired properly last year. Last year was when I kind of properly realised that I was actually hindering my team, harming my team, sorry, I say, more than helping them. So I was like, it's time for me to go out. I'm all big and out of shape now, so it's like, what, it's time to... I've had a good 20-year career, took me all over the world, made some great friends, won lots of championships and trophies and titles, had a great career, but comes to an end at some point.
Okay. It was a comment that I saw that you said, and you said
Oh
that...
dear.
No, it's a good thing.
Okay.
It was a good thing. You said that people were jealous of London when they hosted the Paralympics.
Yes.
And I wanted to say, because you've been in for 20 years, how much improvement has Britain made, and are there any other things that still need to be improved along the way in terms of Paralympic sport?
So what I was saying in regards to jealousy was more so much, I think other broadcasters from around the world were jealous with what Channel 4 did with the 2012 Paralympic Games. The Paralympics in this country before 2012 was done was broadcasted by the BBC. They did a horrible job. It would be literally half an hour at 7 p.m. every day, and it was like a highlights package of the day's action. So they'd cram 20 sports or so plus the half an hour. It was just rubbish coverage. Channel 4 said, we're going to literally wipe for the whole 3 weeks of the games. We're going to wipe our schedule. So from 7 in the morning until 9 p.m. every day for 20 odd days, whatever it was, it's going to be Paralympic action. We're going to do this properly. And that attention, that authenticity, that excitement, obviously it helps when you've got a home games, when it's in your city, in your country. That for me, I just think really opened up a lot of people's eyes to disability and disability sports. It helps when you win. We won lots of golds, and the coverage was great. It was vibrant and new and original, and I think that is what, speaking to other broadcasters, especially when I was at the Paralympics 4 years later in Rio, speaking to American broadcasters and other European broadcasters, and they were like, man, you guys have set the bar mad high, really, like almost too high. Yeah, you guys have treated it as if you treat the Olympics, and we were like, well, why wouldn't we? Do you know what I mean? These people are athletes. These people they love their sport.
And
why not?
They're training alongside people who are competing in that.
Well, exactly.
So it's all the same. They're all in the same venues or arenas training.
Well, exactly. So why, as broadcasters, would we not showcase them in the same light as we do the Just Getting Its Hills and the Mo Farahs? That they're more important than these guys. So, just on that comment, what I meant was the rest of the world, in terms of broadcast, were jealous about what we did. What needs to happen? What's changed? I think people definitely have a better idea now of the things that disabled people can do rather than the things they can't do. It always shocks me, and it shouldn't, when I'm at my friends who are who are in wheelchairs. So Adi Adepitan is a good friend of mine. He's a presenter on TV. Whenever we're out, I've known Adi for 20 years, but whenever we're out, I don't know, we might go on the tube, for example, and you know, people be like, oh, we have a lift over here. I'm like, Adi would just get on the escalator by himself, hang on to the side, the belt, and just go down. And people are like, and that always surprised me because I'm so used to being around these people who are more able than we think. When people see them and they're like, and I'm like, no, they're good. Trust me. Do you need a hand? No. They're we go to nightclubs. Oh, do you want a hand? Go around the back entrance. I'm like, no, we'll just carry them down the stairs into the club. It's not a problem. And I think people now are realizing. And I think what the games did is make people realize that just because you're in a wheelchair, that doesn't mean that you can't do anything. Just because you might have partial sight, that doesn't mean you can't do anything. Just because you might have one arm or you might have cerebral palsy.
It's a mentality.
Yeah, and I think that we definitely shifted the gaze on that. What I think that it did do simultaneously was, because the whole branding of those games, Channel 4, were superheroes, I think the damage it did do was maybe it made people think that they were capable of too many things and too much. So I know a lot of people that aren't Paralympians, I did a lot of reports to the news afterwards, it was like, those people that are phenomenally able, albeit in wheelchairs or have one arm, are the minority. The average disabled person isn't able to hang on to the belt on a tube escalator and go down. The average disabled person isn't able to just hop down the stairs of those are the minority, and it made people think that all disabled people to some degree were actually superhumans. Like no, some of us are just disabled people who are just normal, who need help and assistance and help from other people. So in trying to shift the attitude that disabled people were all incapacitated and all lazy, we might have taken it too far the other way and made them all out to be superheroes, which they're not all able in that sense, sort of thing.
Okay. The first time I saw you was on Channel 4 News.
Yes.
And I just wanted to know, how exactly did you become a broadcaster itself?
So I was a print journalist. I was an editor of a magazine in Brixton, down the road, for 12 years, from the age of 13. It's called Live, and I was editor of that. And from that, I learned and met lots of different people in the industry, and I got lots of work experience because of it for national papers and national magazines. When I left Live at 21, I wanted to edit another magazine called ATM, which is a music magazine, for 3 years. And then I did a bit of radio with BBC. One Extra had this thing called Extra Talent, where they kind of like picked out budding broadcasters to give them a chance to present a radio show. I did that for about 2 months. It was actually a 2-week slot per person, but they extended mine to 2 months because I think I did quite well. Anyway, I was then kind of bumbling around, saying to me, I enjoy this, but what I really love is sports. Music and youth culture is something that I'm passionate about, but my real love is sports. I remember saying to one of my mentors, I want to transition from a music journalist into a sports journalist. And he said, Jay, you know that sports journalism is the most competitive area of journalism out there. Now, that surprised me. He said, more than political journalism, more than foreign, more than fashion, more than music, sports is the most competitive area. I was like, really? He's like, yeah, but I'm not saying don't do it, but just be aware, get your elbows out because everyone's fighting to get into that arena. I said, okay, cool. Anyway, I was playing wheelchair basketball these times still, and went to Italy for 4 years. The 4th year I was there was the year that Channel 4 had won the broadcasting rights for the Paralympic Games. This is 2009. So they won the rights 2009 for 2012. I didn't know about this because I was in Italy, but I came back one summer, had a dinner with a friend of mine called Sam Conniff, just as a catch up. So I came back every summer for the off season and then went back. So let's have a catch, let's have a chat. Good to see you. I said, forget all that. I've just had a meeting with Channel 4 about something unrelated, but they've just mentioned to me they've just closed the applications for new presenters and reporters for the games in 3 years' time. The remit was we're looking for young, disabled and vibrant presenters to come and cover our coverage of the games in 3 years' time. They've shut the applications for it, but I mentioned you, and if you can get a show reel in like now, they'll look at it and they'll view it. So I was like, okay, cool. Phoned a friend up, did a show reel, sent it in, they liked it. And this is why I often think that sometimes some things are just meant to be, because the 3 main areas of what they were looking for from their presenters were, 4 main. One was, didn't have to be someone from London. I'm from London. It was in London Paralympics. someone with a background in journalism, again, you didn't have to have that, but if you had a background in journalism, that would give you an advantage. I had that. Somebody that understood Paralympic sports. I played wheelchair basketball for 15 years up until this point. So that was like, okay, so I've played Paralympic sport, I'm from London, and I've got a background in journalism. And the fourth one was ideally young. So at that time I was then youngish. So for me it was like, I tick all 4 boxes. But I'd done no presenting, so I had no TV experience. Did it, they liked it. For 2 years they trained us up. So you learned about how to write for TV, very different to writing for a magazine. So they trained us up for 2 years about how to present, how to ask questions, how to do a live, how to, deal with talking to the piece of camera when you've got a director in your ear telling you've got 10 seconds to wrap up, how to ask 3 important questions on a post-match race because you've only got 90 seconds with that person before they move on to the next journalist. All these things we learned and were taught. Did that, won awards, it was great, coverage was amazing. End of it now, I'm like, that was great. That was a great 2.5 years, but the game is over, what now? At a Channel 4 rap party, Paralympic party, I was on the same table as the then new editor of Channel 4 News. He said that he had seen my stuff on during the wheelchair basketball coverage, said he enjoyed it. I was talking about how I enjoyed it, went to stay in sports broadcasting. He was really drunk. I got him a bit more drunk. Got a business card, got a meeting with him, and we met. And it's funny because I went in to meet him for what I thought was just to talk about the possibility of doing some work experience. I would have taken a week's work experience. I'd have taken that. That'd have been amazing for me. And by the end of the meeting, he was like, right, yeah, so start next week. I was like, huh? Hey? Start next week. He's like, yeah, come in, do a few weekend shifts and we'll see how it goes. Didn't offer me a job. I was like, okay, cool, do that. And nearly 8 years on, I'm still there. So that was kind of my first experience into Channel 4 News and the TV.
Okay, I was just thinking. So for you, what has it given to you what has it taught you as a person?
So much. I've got to travel. I love traveling. So I've got to travel. The 3 jobs I've done in my career, in my life, should I say, have all involved traveling: DJing, basketball, journalism. I've got to travel through all 3, very far and wide. So that I think traveling is an education in itself. I think it's very, very underrated how important it is to break out of your environment, your comfort zone, and the people that you know and love. I think it's good. I think it's great to understand other people and why other people do the things they do. I think a big part of why society currently is having a little bit of a breakdown, in my opinion, is because people are not understanding other people. They're not understanding why people vote why they vote. They're not understanding why people say what they say. They're not understanding, why do you think that way? Well, it's because of the way you've grown up. It's because of the parents that you had. It's because of the country you live in, the city you live in. These things happen for a reason. And I think traveling enables you to understand why other people eat the food they eat, talk the way they talk, do the job they do. And that's an education for me. So first of all, traveling is the first thing that it's enabled me to do. From a professional point of view, I've got to learn a skill set that I didn't go to university, so I didn't learn about grammar and sentence structure. I had to learn those things through people around me, professionals around me, and on the job. So I've got to learn bad grammar there. I've got to learn about communication skills, do you know what I mean? And how to talk to people. Interviewing people is something I love doing. I love understanding people and learning something new about people. So when you interview lots of different sports people and people that are not in sports, you get to learn about their experiences and how can you use that experience to better your life and improve what I do you know what I mean? So I suppose from a kind of communication point of view, being a presenter and reporter has given me skill sets under pressure. How to work under pressure, that's a big thing as well, because it's live TV. Live TV, man, you got to deliver. You don't get 3-4 takes, you got to deliver, and you got to make sure. I've made mistakes. I've given misinformation that you don't at the time realise you're doing, but under the pressure of live TV, you have to deliver, you have to execute. So I suppose all these are all things that, working for Channel 4 News in particular, who have a very high bar and a very high standard of their journalism, that's definitely made me a better journalist and a better person.
Okay.
There's 3 reasons. One, I think because sport is for everybody, and black people play a massive role in contributing to sport. So why shouldn't we have black people playing a significant role in reporting on those sports? Why shouldn't we? We make up a massive part of what sport is. The second reason is because the talent is there. It's not like we feel like we should be doing it, but talent's not there. The talent to report and present on sports is there. So why do we not have the equal chance to do that alongside our white counterparts? Just opportunities, it's just simple numbers. We're there, so why are we not being able to report on it? But the third reason I think it's important that we have more black people, more black voices reporting and presenting on sport is, I don't know if you'll agree with this, but I think that we think and talk about sport in a different way. I think that we see sport differently, and again, not better or worse than anybody else. The Latin community or the European community or the white. If you go into a barbershop,
it's a prime example.
Or a family function, a black family function, the way we talk about boxing and football and cricket, I think it's very different in tone and in content to how I think you would hear a discussion around football in the pub with a bunch of white people. And again, I'm not saying that we talk about it in a better or worse way. It's just different.
And it adds a different perspective.
Of course.
Yeah.
So if you're going out to an audience where there's lots of black people, lots of white, diverse audience of football sports fans, then you don't just want it coming from Jamie Redknapp and Graham Souness and Gary Neville in the studio. You want someone in this that's going to come at it from a different angle.
Yeah.
And it's not no less or more intelligent or better or worse. It's just when I listen to Clinton Morrison,
okay,
for example, on the radio.
Good example.
I don't think he's a great broadcaster. I don't. But when he talks about football, I get it.
Yes.
I get what he's trying to say, and I get what he means when he says certain things. And that's only because he's from a community that I'm from.
Yes.
So the way we see sport and think about sport, it's just different. So why can we not have those different voices and perspectives reflecting a game? Or why can't we review a game or do an analysis on the game that has a wide spectrum of different voices? Why do we need to have 3 white men in suits that all have the same perspective pretty much? Why can't we have someone coming in from out of the box? Do you know what I mean? Ian Wright, I think, is good for that as well. I think Ian Wright is very good at making it, giving a perspective from someone that's from London.
Yes.
There's a tonal difference in the way he talks about football and talks about sport. It might not be as intellectually analytical as a Gary Neville or someone else, but it resonates with me.
Yes. And that's what you want the viewers
And that's
to
what
have.
I understand what he's saying because, no one's mentioned that point. No one's kind of come at it from that point of view. And that's why I think it's important that we have more Jeanette Quaches, more myself, more Hughes and Crofts, more just black broadcasters out there talking about sport, because we will ask you, say, about a question that I can guarantee a white reporter might not think to ask. I will ask Raheem Sterling a question or Paul Pogba a question that I can guarantee your average white journalist won't ask. Not because they're stupid, but they're just not from our community, so they don't see things in a certain way. That's why I think it's important.
Now, we all know that the best part of London is North London, but
Really?
moving on.
I mean, do we know this? Or do North Londoners know this? Because I don't think anyone else is going to agree with that.
Well, Arsenal's in North London, so...
Stolen from South, but anyway.
Whatever.
Yeah.
All right. Okay, moving on. Why was it important for you to make the South London footballers documentary? I thought it was really good. I thought it was really insightful.
Thank you.
Yeah.
It was important because I think it reflects a positive image of South London boys in a way that isn't always perpetuated.
Absolutely.
I think the image of boys in London generally, but South London boys in particular, has always been of a particular narrative that,
Greenwich boys.
Yeah, they're all selling weed, they're all fighting, they're all carrying knives, they're all, none of them have got a qualification or educated. I just thought this was like an example of, if you're into football and you're into sport, first of all, there's a high possibility that going into the next World Cup, half of the makeup of the England football team could be from South London. That's insane. I mean, the percentage at the moment of 10% of Premier League players last season were from South London. That in itself is insane. But if you get to the point where half the national team are from South London,
says a lot.
Of course it does. And I think also it's a celebration of not only the fact that we're from South London, but the documentary, what kind of comes from the documentary isn't just that the facts of we're killing it numbers-wise, it's more a celebration of our character and our personality. I don't know if you'd agree, but I think that South London boys are different to other boys and girls from other parts of London. Not necessarily better or worse, but I think there's a characteristic that black boys in particular, but again, it's not exclusive to just black boys, but boys from South London have that I don't think you find anywhere else in the country. I think we have a certain swagger. I think we have a certain confidence/arrogance that other boys in the country don't particularly have. And that is translated into our music and our sports. And I think that traditionally, that swagger and that sauce, as we call it over here, has been kind of poo-pooed and played down. And you go to academies and certain football clubs, and no, we don't want no step up. No, just pass it simple, 4-4-2, get it on the channel, get in the box, head it in. No, that's not what we do here. What we do here is, it's important to win, but it's just as important to entertain. And that comes from a part of the kind of people that we are as South Londoners. And let's celebrate that.
And you touched on it in the documentary, but South London, not to say not other parts of London like this, but you touched on the Parisian suburbs.
Yes.
And I've been to those places quite a bit, and I can see the parallels straight away in terms of the high numbers of black people, the high numbers
Poverty.
of poverty, definitely. And what I think with that combined with South London, if you think about South London, and what was good about the documentary as well, is that you went and spoke to Gavin Rose of Dulwich Hamlet. And if you look at South London, not just the clubs in the Football League, but in the non-league, there's so many opportunities. You've got Sutton, Cole Charlton, you've got Erith Belvedere, you've got Tooting.
Yeah.
There are so many clubs and so many opportunities. So it's pretty much, people talk about, it's a battleground to sign players in London for London clubs. But I think it's a battleground in places simply just South East London alone.
100%.
South West London alone.
And Roy Hodgson made that point. He said that he didn't completely agree that South Londoners are killing it in football now because they have a particular characteristic that's different to anybody else. That's fine. But what he did feel was that the sheer numbers of clubs in South London make it easier to kind of groom more football talent, because if you've got Charlton, Palace, Millwall, those are probably the biggest three in South London, and then below that you've kind of got
AFC Wimbledon.
Yeah, you've got lots of different clubs, and if there's more clubs, then that means there's more opportunities, and South London is geographically the biggest part of London anyway, so there's a numbers element there as well. But I think what I wanted to focus on more wasn't so much the fact that there's so many South London boys killing it. It was more, let's look at why they're killing it. They're killing it because there's something different about them to North London boys, to West London boys. They have a swagger that I think is finally being celebrated, and justifiably so.
And I think also in South London, I would compare it to Classford Sterling at Broadwater Farm in North London.
Yes.
A lot of the people that are coaching the kids are the parents.
Yes.
Or the communities themselves from the Caribbean.
And so they get it.
So they get the flair.
Exactly.
The parents actually want to see the flair.
Exactly.
And the skill. So I think that's probably, we've seen more coaches like Jason Ewell and these type of people get into the academy system, so that helps it a bit more. And Lookman, for example.
Exactly, 100%. And the point was made, I think it was David Powderly made the point in there, and also somebody made the point that, as Andy Answer, it's all well and good having all of these young boys from South London that are talented, that are busting to get through. But ultimately, someone's got to open the gate. There's got to be a gatekeeper. And if that gatekeeper doesn't understand these boys, they're not going to make it. You need to have not only the number of boys that are talented from South London there, but you also need someone that understands them and can say, I understand why you were late for training today.
Absolutely.
I understand why and just simple basic things like you might be a Muslim. I understand that maybe it's Ramadan and your energy levels are low. Those are things I think generally accepted and understood now, but all those sorts of things that I think traditionally have not been understood, because you've got a white guy from Liverpool coaching a bunch of black boys from Brixton. Now, it's not to blame that white guy from Liverpool. He's not from Brixton, so why would he understand what it's like being? How would he understand what it's like to get the best out of a boy from a particular part of the country he knows nothing about? That's just normal. But now we've got the black boys coming through, or the South London boys coming through. We now need to have the South London coaches that understand them and can actually guide those boys through to the next level, and that's important for me as well.
Hello and welcome to this week's episode of It's All Blakademic with your host, myself, Jordan, Jarrett, Bryan. And on this week's show, we're going to have a debate and discussion around the African diaspora heading back to their country of origins on the African continent. Just before I introduce my guests for this week's discussion, a quick reminder, once again, across all the socials, if you're not following us by now, please do so. We're across Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. If you're watching us right now, you're on the channel, you might as well subscribe to us. Click the button. It's the red one. Click it now, please. And finally, we're a podcast as well. So if podcasts are more your thing, go and download or find and download the Acast app. We're also on Spotify as well. Right, let's get into it.
Tell us about Blakademik.
Blakademik.
I have to say myself, I didn't realise, like I said before we got on camera, that I had watched nearly every video apart from the one video. Yeah, apart from one, and I'll probably watch it today. I really love it because it's you say you're a sportsman, but you can see from when you're interviewing people, your mind is just broad. You're in everything, and you've covered money, you've covered business, you've covered the social issues that we're experiencing, and it's just. I always say to myself, I would love to see that on TV, but I'm seeing it. It's there.
Yeah.
Do you understand?
Don't need TV.
I don't need TV. So it's there, and I can see it, and that's what I find fantastic. How did you get to Blakademik?
So we saw Blakademik came out of an idea I had about a year ago now, where I was noticing on where I work, Channel4 News, we're very big on live debates in our studios. We'll have a news story, and then we'll have a studio debate, and they're always really good and dynamic. But I noticed that the only time we'd have a black person in those debates was something to do with knife crime, music, or sport. Which is fine, but I was like, why do we never have, and this was the same for other channels as well. I'm only saying Channel4 News because that's where I work, and I don't want to be seen to be picking on other channels when I think we're the best at it, but we're still not very good at it.
I think so.
We still got a lot of work to do. So I don't want to pick on other news channels, but generally across the board, that's what I was noticing. Oh, when there's a panel of 3 or 4 guests, on Brexit, why do we never have two of the four that are black or minority? Why do we never have, when there's a business discussion, a panel where there's 2 black people? Why when there's the discussion around something to do with science or history, we never have a black person, period, but if we do, it's one. That was my big thing. So I thought, okay, well, I know some people in my circles who are highly intelligent and have expertise in areas beyond knife crime and football. Why are these people not on TV? They've got so much to offer in terms of opinions and expertise. Why are these people not being... So I thought, okay, I'll do it myself. The internet now allows us to be able to do things. We can do what we want. We don't have to wait anymore for commissions from BBC, Channel4, Sky, or anybody else. So I thought, you know what? I'm going to set up a YouTube channel that discusses issues that are either not being had, or if they are being had, they're being had in ways that I think are detrimental to our community, because they're through the gaze of a white perspective or a Western perspective. That's not good. So I grabbed a few people I knew that were camera operators, an editor, my brother does a bit of sound, and just said, let's do this, set up a channel, and we did it. And the response has been really, really positive. We're growing all the time. And it was important to have discussions on a wide breadth of topics. So we do, as you mentioned, we've done stuff on business, on politics, fashion, film, music, sport, culture, lifestyle, health. We do, it was interesting and it pertains to our community, we'll debate it. And what's important for me is that to try and push on the debate. So I very much I try and get different perspectives on it, because if we all agree on something,
no, that's not good.
That doesn't push. It doesn't go anywhere. Yeah. So I want people that can provoke, because I like to debate. I like people to disagree with me, because if you disagree with me and you can come with sense, that's making me think about why I think what I think. And that's what I try and do with the show. Let's try and make people think about, so why do you think it's wrong to be gay? Why do you think it's black people don't have any money in our community? Why do you think that there's a knife crime issue within London, not just say black community, but within our community? And what role does our music play in that? We can't just deny the fact that...
No, you can't, because it's explicit, you can hear it.
I'm not saying there's a direct link between what these young people are rapping about and people stabbing each other, but I hear a lot of people say, no, there's no link. Well, there is a link. We can't as black people be ignorant to that. So that was basically the premise of the show. and we try and offer expertise as well. So we try and make the viewer by the end of the show have learned something. If they haven't learned anything, at least be challenged about, again, why they think what they think. And I've got a great team. I've got a great production team, great editorial team, great digital team, and it's growing all the time. And we're doing live shows now.
Oh, so yes, I saw the Jerk Festival.
Done a few live shows. We did our first one before the Jerk one, which was our first live show. That went really well. I'm not sure when this is going out, but we're just finishing season 3 now. Season 4, there's going to be a bigger emphasis on live shows than studio shows. We do a thing called Black and Winning, where we identify a black person that's basically just killing it. You know, it can be in sport, it could be online, it could be politics, it could be literature, it could be whatever. If you're black and you're killing it, we're going to celebrate that. We want to. That's a one-to-one thing where we just talk to that person about how they got to where they got to, and advice for people that want to aspire to be better.
In terms of, we've just discussed, obviously the channel's the focus around the black community. In terms of our community, we always like to talk about things that, or some people like to talk about things, only negative things. But in your mind at the moment, what do you think, even if it's just a simple one industry or the community itself, what do you think's gone well for us in the last 5 years, if there's anything? And I think to myself, what I've seen personally is that I've seen things like you had Ray, I think her name is, from Mostly Lit.
Yes.
So the literary discussions,
Yes.
like their podcast, I think that's a good thing. I think in terms of media, we have a lot out there that we can access. When people say there's not things that we can't access, there definitely are things that we can access.
I was going to say that.
Yeah, so I think that's one particular thing. And I try and think on the positive side. I do focus on the negative side because we need to change those things.
Of course.
But I do think about them in terms of the media. I think there's a lot more that we can access in terms, and I'm being honest with you, there's a lot of things that I don't watch on TV because of the content that's being created.
Sure,
online.
same.
So is there anything?
I think I'd actually echo what you said. I think that what's changing is that black people are understanding that we're done with asking. We're done with asking and waiting. We're deciding now, again, with the internet, you don't have to wait. Podcasts allow us to have a voice. YouTube allows us to have a voice and to challenge or to even shoot down certain narratives and perspectives about our people with our own podcast, with our own. We don't have to sit on the sidelines now and be vexed because there's a feature going out about our community. We can challenge that now and have our own say, actually, that was rubbish.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah,
so I think what's changing is I think we're definitely getting a sense of we're not having it anymore. And I think that the group in society of people who are even ahead of us in terms of not having it anymore are women. And I think that's maybe because, and it's going to sound really, really, really come off really bad, but I hope people understand what I'm trying to say. I think women have bigger mouths. I think women have big mouths, and women have decided now I'm gonna use my big mouth to basically let you guys know, guys as in the kind of general term, let everyone know that it's not okay to talk about women in this way. It's not okay to treat women in certain ways, and we're going to let you know now that we're not having it anymore. And I think if more black people had that more aggressive, big mouth kind of stance, I think we would see a lot more progression in media in particular, as we're seeing with women. Women are saying, no, pay us what we deserve. We're not going to be quiet anymore. Pay us what we deserve.
A question's just come to my head as a result of that. I'm just thinking about, in terms of our community at the moment, and you said women have louder voices. I would actually agree with that. What comes to my mind as well is that sometimes when I go to things regarding the community, the black community, whether it's like an educational thing, improving education in the black community, whether it's business, I'm not trying to fall into the narrative of the lazy black man, because that's not what I know. Many black men that are
far from lazy,
look after their children, exceptional individuals. But I do think that there are more women contributing sometimes to our community than men. Is that something you disagree with or agree with?
That's a good question.
I'll tell you why I ask it. I see not only offline, so in this everyday society, but also online, that there's a quote that says that black men do not protect black women, and to a certain degree, I have to agree with from what I've seen. So that's why the question comes to my head, and I'm just thinking, I don't understand personally. I can look at history, but history is not been giving me answers. I don't understand why that's personally the case.
I would say that I do think women are contributing in our community more than black men, but I think they've had further to catch up in that sense, and that's not down to them. I think they've been held down and put in their box for so long that men have always had the ability to contribute or not, be it a voice, be it with tangible things. I think women now in the last 5 to 10 years are now saying, get off me, no, I want to do what I want to do. So I think the makeup in the last 5 years of what women have contributed to us, to our community, has been greater than what men have contributed. I just think that previously they weren't allowed to do more than what we allowed them to do or what we told them to do. Whereas now they're like, I don't care what you say anymore. I want to do what I want to do. You know what I mean? I think they've contributed in sense of building families, keeping our families sane in a time and in a world where as a black person it's very easy to go insane. I think they've done a very good job in raising us and making healthy families, be it food, be it care. They've done that from day. That's served our interests. So we've allowed them to do that. Because as black men, we're like, well, we don't mind you doing all that because there's a self-benefit there. But no, any more than that, no. Whereas now they're saying, no, we want to be more than just good mums and good housewives and good women. We want to do what we want to do now. So I think the makeup of what they've contributed in the last 5 years, for example, has been significantly more. Just go online. There's so many women podcasts now. There's much more authors now. But I don't think it's because they're more dominant than men. I just think it's because they've not been allowed to contribute for so long, and now it seems like they're everywhere now, and really they're just making up for lost time. They're just making up for the time that the patriarchy prevented them from doing what they wanted to do.
And do you feel that it's more discussions that will help us to build a stronger community, especially with the relations between women and men in our community? Because I think that your discussions in terms of Blakademik, the fact that you always have mixed panels, that allows people to see different perspectives and listen. Because when you're in a bar with your friends, there's normally dominated by, well, not necessarily my social group, but it's normally dominated by one gender. So you only hear the same narrative again and again 100%. And again. So I think that was well intended by you. I think.
It was, and we got actually in trouble for one of our first live shows. We had a discussion. It was an all-male panel, and we had a cancellation from a lady at the last minute. So I explained from the get-go, the optics of this look really, really bad because it's got 4 men on the panel here talking. It doesn't look good. But I wanted to make it clear to you guys out there, we did have a woman booked who cancelled at the last minute to replace with, and we couldn't get another woman who was appropriate for this debate to fill in. So the makeup of my production team, there's still a horrible imbalance of men to women. So we're working hard to try and address that. My production manager is a woman. My production assistant is also a lady. One of our camera operators is a woman. My graphic designer is a woman. And there's somebody else in the team is a woman. My researcher now is a woman as well. So we're slowly kind of addressing that balance. But we're always very, very conscious that we can't just have an all-male panel. We can't. And I don't want to. Why would you want to have? I think if we're going to have a discussion and challenge each other, then you need to have different perspectives. And a woman's perspective, more often than not, will be different to a man's. So why would you want to have an all-male panel? In the same way, why would you want to have an all-female panel? I will say this, that we've had 2 debates I can think off the top of my head where it has been all-male and all-female, but that was specific to the debate. So we had one discussion on season 2.
Was that the one with Claire Cotty and the lady that wrote British?
Yeah, there was that one. That was season 1. So that one was not even that. That was a failing, because that was one where we should have had a male on that one. That wasn't deliberate. The 2 that were deliberate were on season 2 we had a discussion around black women doing bits. So a discussion around celebrating black women and saying, in 2009, 18 as it was then, black women are killing it. Let's have a discussion around where they're killing it. I don't really think it's appropriate to have a man in that discussion. So I deliberately we had 3 ladies. And we had a discussion in the same season around what does masculinity mean in 2019.
That was a good discussion.
And that was all men. Because we had a discussion, me and my team, around involving a female perspective in that. But I personally didn't think it was relevant to have a female or a lady, not females, a lady in that discussion.
And I think that's good, because there are certain times where, like you were saying, women are going to understand things better for women in terms of organisation than men. So I think that's fantastic.
But sorry, to answer your question there, sorry. So I think it's important to have a balance, and I do feel like women are catching up. I don't mean that in a very patronising way, but they're catching up in terms of what they contribute to our community, but only because they've not been allowed to for so long.
Okay, so I wanted to ask, where can people find you, socials?
You can find me, I'm on Instagram, Jordan, Jarrett, Bryan, 2 R's and 2 T's, Bryan with a Y, not with an I. I'm on Twitter, _Jordan J Bryan, or you can email me, what's my email? Jordan@justjordanmedia.com. Yeah, those are my socials, that's where I'm at. Or check out the website, Blakademik.com. That's Blakademik with no C's. It's BLAKADEMIK, Blakademik, but with no C's in that at all, .com.
I have one more question. I always ask it, and it's a question I like to ask, but it's a question that I sometimes don't like to ask, because it gets me thinking. I don't want people to think I'm trying to preempt certain things.
Mm-hmm.
Now, eventually all of us are going to transition, whatever you believe in, like we're all going to
leave
this earth. Yeah, we're going to leave. When you go, or even when you're 80 years old and you're still around and you want to chill out now, what do you want your legacy to be? What do you want people to remember you for?
I made a difference. My legacy, I want my legacy to be, I made a difference. I think everybody's on this planet to make a difference. Now, the size of that difference will be different for different people. A difference for some people could mean changing an entire country's fortunes. And if you have the power, influence and money, as certain figures in the world do, then that's a difference to them. I know that lots of African football players, Samuel Eto'o, Didier Drogba, Emmanuel Adebayor, are very big on changing the fortunes and the opportunities within Ivory Coast, Nigeria, Togo, wherever they're from. Or it could be something as small as your next door neighbour, making that person feel good, and every time they wake up in the morning and come out to work, you make an impact on that person's life to the point where they go to work every morning feeling happy and feeling good. It can be as small as that. You can make a difference to one person or to a nation. My legacy, I want to be that I made, and all the work that I do and the way that I treat people, I want my legacy to be that I made a difference to somebody. I don't want to die, I'll get to an old age and think, boy, you know what, you've done some really good things, you know. You've been to some mad good countries, and you've been out with some hot women, and you've worn some wicked clothes, and you've had been some wicked parties and had some great times. But what does that mean? What does that mean? That fun is important. Don't underestimate how important having fun is. And I think as black people, especially in these times of struggle, we kind of forget to just have fun. Not every day is an activism day.
Yes.
Do you know what I mean? I think in the mind, everyday activism, we don't have to thump the streets every day. You've got to live. But I don't want it to be just solely, I had fun. I want it to be, how did you treat the people around you? The people that work for you. I have staff now. The people that work for you. Did you help them reach their dreams rather than they just served you? Did you make them better camera operators? Did you make them want to set up their own business? My brother, what difference do you make to him? How good a brother are you? How good a son are you? How good a colleague are you? What difference are you making? And it could be something, like I say, something very, very small. It might not necessarily be, I made you rich or I gave you a job. It might just be, I made you feel good. So a big thing as well, just very briefly, is relationships. I've got a few exes, as most people my age will have had might get to my age. What was the legacy of those of the women that were with you? So did you leave them making them feel crap about themselves, or did they break up with you but they learned something from you? They felt better about having had you in their lives. What difference have you made to the people around you? And that's got to be my legacy. What difference? And if I've made a difference to one person, literally, and I mean that, if one person I've met in my life can say, I met Jordan, or I worked with Jordan, or I dated Jordan, or I was friends with Jordan, and he made me feel good, or he helped me do this, and now I'm doing that, I've won.
Fantastic.
Is that all right?
Yeah. Thank you.
It's okay.